Kind of tell us who you are and what you're about.
Okay. So I have worked at Goodyear now for 5 years, and I will say I think this is the longest job I've had. So let's say I'm a millennial, and I've had upwards of 20 jobs over my period of working.
How old are you, if you don't mind us asking?
In my 30s, early 30s.
So you started working very young, when you were what?
16, because legally you could work at 16. So I was in high school working, weekend jobs, and then I would pick up a second job after school during the week, have another job on the weekends. I was very, very much so, when I could work, I was ready to work and make money and just kind of go into that kind of workforce. I was ready, I guess.
Okay, so this is the longest job you worked at.
Yeah, continuously. So throughout my life, I've gone up in pay. I've always looked at a job as how much money can I make here? How many hours can I put in? Do I want to grind and put in hours and make a lot of money? And then once that job, because you talk to people, these guys have been around for so many years, they have more experience. Well, hey, I worked here and I did this. Oh, back in the day, I was making this much. And so you hear about it. And, I always wanted to chase more money. And so that was kind of my goal. My goal was to just keep rising with money. So at this point now with Goodyear, especially as a factory production job, most of the time when you work at a factory in the United States, factories can run anywhere from 5 to 7 days a week. Usually it's about 6 or 7 days a week. You're working anywhere from 8 to 12, maybe 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
So, it just really depends on what that job needs, and you can make a lot of money.
So you've been working at Goodyear for 5 years. It sounds like this is you're a workaholic. You like to work, and honestly, throughout the years that I've known you, you always do have a job down. Whether I remember when you worked at what was that famous brand back in high school? Aeropostale, the skating rink.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've always had a job down.
Those were the fun times. Definitely, those were fun. So, the more fun a job is, the less money you make. That's how America works.
Yeah.
That's about it. Oh, I can see. Okay, here we go. So I see someone commented, and I had the Korean to English translate because I have you on mute. So I'm doing this. So your guy here says, "Does Goodyear also make aircraft tires?"
Yeah.
So
that's a good question.
That is a good question. So where I work at specifically, we only make passenger tires. So we make tires for everyday vehicles, whether it be a car, truck, even electric vehicles, Tesla, Ford, Nissan, Toyota, Honda. Goodyear is arguably the most popular tire in general, but that doesn't mean that they are the best tire. They've been around for a very long time, and they've partnered with a lot of huge partners, and they've done stuff like Goodyear. I believe the fastest kind of like those. You have to also know that I had just got off of work. I worked 7 days in a row, and I just got off. It's morning time. My sleep schedule is flip-flop, so I might make some pauses or speak funny. But yeah, Goodyear has a lot of great partners.
I see that. Don't they? Yeah, like you said, they're the national leading tire company.
Yeah, I would say so. Arguably, personally, And looking at the tests that are ran, Michelin does edge out Goodyear.
Michelin, right? That's another tire company that people probably are familiar with.
Yes. So if we want to know who has the best tires, for example, personally, I've seen Michelin and Bridgestone has a lot of the top tier tires. Goodyear is in that top tier, but for the most part, they don't take that #1 spot. They make a very good tire. They're very innovative. We have trials and we make new tires and test them for the car company. So Toyota could say, hey, we want to test out this material. Our goal is to make it more fuel efficient, or we want this to be the tread life to last longer. So we do a bunch of trials. The Goodyear that I work at is the largest Goodyear in the world.
Okay, actually we won't say location because you might be uncomfortable with that, right?
Yeah, let's stay a little in that.
Yeah. So
Goodyear,
can we do it broad? He's in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And he works at the biggest Goodyear factory. I actually have two aside from you, I know one more person that works at the Goodyear factory, which is kind of weird. It's kind of mind-blowing, actually. But I wanted to ask you, you've been working there for 5 years, and it seems like you said it's the longest job you ever had. Why do you think that is?
Oh, this is a good, easy question. So, what I've witnessed in the Midwest, when I've been to places, let's just say large cities in the Midwest, think big cities. Most factory or production jobs, you'll have long hours, you'll have mandatory overtime. So you may have a set schedule. Hey, you're going to work 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. But based on the demand and needs of the company, a lot of those jobs, most of those jobs, your boss can say, hey, we have mandatory overtime tomorrow. You need to come in on your day off. Sorry, that it just is what it is. So I've dealt with a lot of those types of jobs. Why I've stuck with Goodyear for so long, first time in all my production jobs, they have a set schedule. You work 14 days out of the month, 12 hours a day. You flip-flop between working in the morning to the evening, 12 hours. For a few days, you have a couple days off, and then you switch over to working 12 hours evening into the morning. But every month, you have a week off straight.
That's nice.
And you work 14 days a month. So there's no mandatory overtime. That's a very big perk that I haven't had anywhere else. Also, they pay well. And when I say well, okay, let's do something fun here.
Well, you have to also take into consideration, right? Talk about how you live in the Midwest and cost of living might be different for someone who lives in the East, either the East Coast or the West Coast.
Okay, that's a good point. So, because you're the one playing and I'm the one, I'm on the computer now. So I'm gonna say.
I can look it up for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so it can show on the screen.
So what is the average salary of, just in general, of Americans?
What is the average salary in the U.S.? Go for that.
Yeah.
The national average annual salary in the United States is approximately $64,500, according to recent 2026 data from Forbes. Yeah, so
Okay.
64,000.
So 64,000 is the average of the U.S. Last year, I did work a little bit of overtime. It wasn't a dangerous amount or anything, but on average, I bring in 80,000 a year. And that's just with a little bit of overtime. Maybe I work a couple of my off days on my 7 days off. You know.
That's not bad at all, man.
Yeah. There's
You said-
guys that...
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
And you said that's with overtime? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, so our schedule has built-in overtime. One
Oh,
week,
yeah.
So 4 weeks in the month. 1 week you're gonna work 36 hours. Another week you're gonna work 40 hours. Another week you're gonna work 44, and then 48. So there's some built-in overtime. And other than that, you can come in on your off days, do some overtime. If you want. It's not mandatory, it's not forced. They never have had a moment where they say, hey, we really need you to come in, you know. So that's, you know, they're very good about that. They do not, that's another topic, but they're not unionized. And it's a whole nother topic, but Goodyear, they really...
Isn't it good for the workers? That's like the general understanding that it's better for a workforce to get unionized. What do you think?
Okay, so yes and no, because I've been a part of unions, and so every union, you can have a strong union or you can have a weak union. A strong union is gonna fight and not give up certain things to gain certain things. For example, most of the time unions or people, they always know the workers want a better wage. They want more money. That's the main issue for the most part. Now, a weak union, they might say, okay, we're gonna try to fight for more money, more money. That's what our guys want. That's what we're gonna go for. But in turn, what the company can say is, listen, we hear you. You want more money. So how about this? They could say something like, hey, the health insurance, we're going to charge more for the health insurance. So you can have your better wage.
So it's like a trade-off.
It's a trade-off. So a strong union, they will get what the workers want with giving very little, because a strong union will also threaten the company. Hey, listen, we earned this, you know, we come, we work, we do what we have to do, and we have a lot of workers. Without us, you do not have a company. And sometimes a strong union will go on strike, they'll threaten a strike, you know, they have the workers' best interest in mind, and they don't want to give up, you know, stuff just to gain, just to look good on paper. Hey, we got a better wage, but hey, your insurance is going up. Hey, you know, also on Sundays, you know, you guys won't get paid overtime, you know, or something like, you know, so anyway.
There's always a trade-off, it sounds like. But it sounds like Goodyear, from what you're saying, prior to talking about the union stuff, it sounds like they're pretty good about taking care of their workers.
Yes.
Or better than other places, at least. That's what it sounded like.
So interesting. Goodyear has other plants in the United States, in Canada, in Germany, in I believe in certain Asian countries, I believe in South Africa. So Goodyear is a global plant. Interestingly enough, most of Goodyear factories are union. So there's a North Carolina plant that is a very large plant. They are union. So the Midwest one, the largest one, is not union. And the biggest reason, I believe, when I came in, I didn't believe Goodyear needed a union. So, you know, look at it. Why would we need a union? They don't make us work mandatory overtime. So I always tell people, look, there's only 3 reasons you would need a union at a job. Reason number 1, they overwork you. Reason number 2, you're not making enough money for the work that you're doing. And reason number 3, the managers or the corporate or office, they are threatening or micromanaging the workers so much that it is a hassle to come in and work. So that's kind of what was happening. And, you know, coming from a union, I've worked union jobs. For example, I'll say this. I worked at a very large cereal company.
Which
of the
one?
Largest Kellogg's.
You worked for Kellogg's too. You've been around the world. It sounds like you've been around companies.
So what's funny is I worked at Kellogg's in Omaha, and that was the largest Kellogg's.
Yeah, I remember that.
So Kellogg's was unionized, but the actual schedule was 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. That was the schedule for the workers.
Damn, dude.
Now, yeah. So that was the first time I've seen, wow, these guys literally work every single day. Sometimes they would have a Sunday off. That was kind of like the thing. You know,
Don't tell me for holidays.
So holidays, a lot of people would.
If the holiday landed on a Sunday, they're like, yeah, go spend time with your family. This, I know Christmas is on a Tuesday, but we're giving you guys Sunday off.
So I didn't stay there for more than like 3 or 4 months just because that schedule was crazy. But Kellogg's, you know, to the main point is, even if you have a union, that doesn't mean you're gonna get ideal situations. It depends who you are, right? So what was ideal for Kellogg's workers was the pay. Okay, you can work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, but they got double time on Sundays and they got time and a half on Saturdays. So
they were making bank.
They were making bank. So like, I think when I was there, if I was working straight 7 days a week, starting out, I mean, I was bringing home after taxes, I it's gonna be around like $1,500 to $1,800 a week after taxes.
Okay.
So it was good money. And the thing is, they had what they called a legacy worker. So that's if you've worked for over 5 years and you claimed a position at the company, you are called a legacy worker. So those guys made around $30 an hour with the same stipulation. So those guys brought home over $2,500 a week after taxes. Those guys were banking.
Yeah, they were making that good money.
Yeah. So a union will do different things for you. But Goodyear, to me, at first, it didn't really. I didn't think it needed a union. I really didn't.
Were
the
you?
was good. The money was good.
Were you more when you were younger? I just want to ask this real quick. I'm sorry to cut you off. Were you? I remember you being slightly pro-union when you were younger. Has that changed? Because it sounds like your stance right now is more in the middle. Like there is a good and a bad. Maybe through experience, your perspectives have changed.
I'm neither for or against. Now, every middle-class worker will usually be pro-union just because it gives power to the people. Whenever this has happened at every job. So when you have a union, the vibe is workers against management. So usually management would be scared to say anything to you because when you have a union, you have union reps, which is just workers that are on the floor, but they get voted to be a union rep. The workers say, hey, I want you to represent the union and I can go to if I need anything. So sorry, I got a text message. So basically the union reps were like lawyers. So anytime a manager said something or did something to you and you felt like you were being treated differently or unfair, for example, there was one time I felt like I was getting treated different than the other worker that had the same position. They wanted me to do something that the other guys didn't, just me. And so I said, how about this? let me get my union rep and we can talk about it, because you do not have to talk to your supervisor. You do not have to talk to any management. You can say, I would like my union rep present, and then we can talk. And usually those office guys or supervisors will say, listen, just don't worry about it. They did not want trouble, because you as a supervisor could get in trouble or wrote up, or I forgot the word. It was like
disciplinary action for being racist. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yeah.
Was it a racism thing?
No, not at all. This was pure power for the workers.
But why were they like being mean to you and being unfair to you than to the other workers, like compared to the other workers?
So that was just an example. I don't think in general I was treated differently, because everywhere I've gone, I've been, a hard worker. I do take pride in, being a hard worker, getting the job done. I'm not lazy, A lot of the jobs I've had have been like team orientated, like, hey, if I can help this guy out, it's gonna make the process go much smoother. Now everyone doesn't think like that to work together, but I always did. Okay, I'll give you a real example that actually happened. So, I worked for a bread company in Omaha. You remember. And I mixed about 1,000 pounds of bread every 10 minutes. We were popping that sucker out, making loaves 2,000 pounds about every 10 minutes.
That's a lot of bread.
That's a lot of bread, man, So, because we had to make all the Sara Lee's, the Great Value, the...
I remember Sara Lee.
Nature Valley, all the big breads. So,
Wait, you're telling me all the bread brands come from the same factory?
Some. So it's kind of like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, right? Pepsi owns certain brands and certain names. Coca-Cola owns certain brands, certain names. So it just depends on that company. Like I actually worked at another bakery, and they owned different brands. But the one in Omaha was the bigger one. That was, Bimbo. They were actually based out of Mexico. They were very big, though. So one day, for bread, you're mixing 2,000 pounds of this sponge and dough, and it needs liquid, it needs flour, it needs the ingredients. Well, in the mixer, I would put all of these in, liquid and flour and ingredients. One time, somehow I forgot to put the liquid inside. So you can imagine, like, all these ingredients formed together, and it was like a rock. So out of nowhere, you just hear this boom, 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 boom. And I fried the motor in the mixer. So that mixer went down for over 3 hours. They had to fix it because there was it just that big blob of, 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of solid force just mixing, because that mixer's throwing it around inside. So after that, my manager, he pulled me aside, and he was a good guy. He always tried to help us. He was a hard worker, and he said, hey, listen, that machine was down for over 3 hours. I am supposed to write you up. That's just what we do. That's how it's done. That's kind of what the protocol says. And I said, his name was Rich. I said, Rich, I come in here, I work, I do so much. Everything that we need done, I do it. I go above and beyond. He said, I know this is just protocol. I don't want to give it to you. It's just what needs to be done. And at that moment, I was, it was a mistake. But I said, okay, Rich, before you give me this write-up, I would like my union rep present. And he did something that I was like, wow, this is power right here. Mm-hmm. He had the piece of paper that, he wrote as a write-up to me. Holy crap. Say it for me.
Disciplinary.
Yes. Yes, disciplinary action.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I want my union rep present. My manager looked at me and he said, you know what? And he picked up the piece of paper and ripped it. And he said, don't worry about it. So it just goes to show that the union is a very strong force, because without a union, company has full and total control on everything, and the workers have zero say. They have zero say on what they can get out of the company as far as money, benefits, hours, work schedule, everything.
Yeah.
With the union, you have power. They will negotiate. The union meets with the company every so often, and they negotiate. What do you guys want? Well, this is what we want. This is what we're willing to give. It's constantly a negotiation. The company wants to do this. The union says, absolutely not. We're not doing this. If they cannot agree, nothing changes. But the company can, in turn, shut down. They can, Kellogg shut down, dude.
Because of the union?
I don't want to say it was because of the union, but they shut down. That bakery shut down. So, I don't think it was purely the union. Companies do not like unions. So Goodyear, they, I believe, listen to their workers at the large plant because they do not want a union, because they lose power over what happens in their largest production factory. They do not want to lose the power.
So in turn, they treat you guys slightly better, or like if you were to do a side-by-side comparison with other factory settings, you think that's why they kind of give you guys a better treatment?
Absolutely, I do believe that. Yeah, I believe that. Goodyear's that plant was built by guys. When I started, there was guys that worked there for 30, 40 years, and that was not uncommon. That was the normal. All these other jobs I've worked at, I mean, they hire and fire people left and right. Someone quits, someone joins. Goodyear here is a sought-after job. People are not able to work at Goodyear because, they have a test similar to like the military. You have to take a test before.
Like an aptitude test?
Exactly, an aptitude test, just to see if you're a dumbass.
What if you have like a criminal background or a record on you?
So in previous times, before COVID, they were very selective. You had to know somebody just to work there.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it's post-COVID. After COVID happened, a lot of older people, they did not return to the workforce. And so Goodyear has seen a labor shortage, and they've been trying to hire in the next generation of workers. But it's a new age, man. People don't want to stay at one job. They don't want to stay here.
Yeah, that's usually like the tech bros up in big cities like San Francisco, or here in the Nova area, Arlington, Tyson, Rockville. A lot of that's usually the tech guys, I thought. But like in settings like yours, where a lot of people are more traditional, old-fashioned, conservative, and they work in factory settings, I think they have the mentality that you do. Because I have a buddy who also works at the same factory as you, and he is very proud that he works, like you said, people take pride in their job, as being, he posts a lot of selfies on Snapchat while he's working at Goodyear. Like when he's like getting off or going to work, he takes a picture of his job outside his car and says clocking in. Most people wouldn't do that, I don't think, unless they felt some sort of pride in their job. And I do think, like, I've been to your town, it is a pretty much a wasteland. It's kind of Midwest, not much going on. You have to drive, what, at least 2 hours to get to the next major city? So,
I'll say about an hour.
say about an hour, yeah. Well,
Yeah, about
that city, your town, doesn't really have much other than big Goodyear factory. You have little jobs here and there, but it doesn't compare to Goodyear, so... Do people in the Midwest, like you said, do they switch around? I do think you're right that people switch around jobs chasing high earning. It's actually kind of like a guide. It's a big city guide. People actually, because when I was working at the government facility up here in Nova, within us contractors, we always talked about job hopping to chase higher salaries. But I think that only applies to big cities, because it seems like for you guys down there in the Midwest and more of the rural areas, everybody's like, once you get a good job, you're pretty happy.
Yeah, so that's a good point to make too, and kind of how you were talking about, hey, well, what's the difference between the Midwest and the coast? So the Midwest, especially where I'm at now, more than the other places I've lived at. Here, I mean, people, they live out in the country, or they retire here. Hold on.
I would not want to retire where you're at, I'll tell you that right now. I would want to retire in Florida by the beach. I'm sorry, Eddie. That place is... The only reason I would go there is for you.